Welcome to Sacrilegious Discourse.
For this is what the Sovereign Lord says.
Why do you need prophets to tell people who you are and what you want?
If you can justify everything that the God of the Bible has done, then you can justify any of your behavior.
A lot of this mentality is trickling into what is now mainstream right-wing Christianity.
I am capable of empathy greater than this God of the Bible.
This is a Bible that they tell kids. This is the good Lord. This is the good book. He is fantasizing about murder, mass murder.
Head over to sacrilegiousdiscourse.com right now to find out how to leave us a review or support us on Patreon.
Husband,
Wife,
do you know what we're doing today?
we're finally wrapping up Second Maccabees.
First and second Maccabees.
Oh, okay.
We're wrapping up all the Maccadoodles.
Got it. Yeah. So yeah, we're doing that. And sorry, it's been a while since we've had a release for an episode. But we have, just so you know, we've already recorded the first and second chapters of Matthew.
You keep saying first Matthew.
I know.
Very, very confusing and silly.
They will be coming out, and if you are on Discord, you definitely would have heard them, and you'll have heard them if you were on Patreon as well.
That is true.
So, that's one way to get things that when we're slow releasing stuff, but
and when we do it out of order,
right? This just we had a little bit extra research and a lot of things and stuff and
what have you?
Yeah, what have you? So, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I'm about ready to say sayonara to the OT.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Hebrew Bible.
Let's do it.
Okie dokie. All right, let's hop into the Maccadoodles of it all.
Okay.
So, we know that first and second Maccadoodles were kind of covering a lot of the same ground.
Yeah, one was from more of a historical perspective, and one was more from a God perspective.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That
first,
is
second B's being the reference, or whatever, historical, and second being the God.
You just need to stop saying first and second anything because you keep fucking it all up. But yes, that is correct.
At least it's not the sixth.
And also that the Maccadoodles came after the Old Testament. So it fell into that 400-year period that, depending who you ask, is called the 400 years of silence.
Right.
Remember that whole thing?
I do.
Okay. So during the time of when we're talking about the Maccadoodles, which was the 2nd century BCE.
Yeah.
Okay. Judea lay right smack dab between the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt.
Yeah.
So the Ptolemies in Egypt.
Right.
So it was between there and the Seleucid Empire, which was based in Syria.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So Judea is like smack dab in the middle of Greece and Egypt. Okay. And just to kind of put that into perspective for, if you're trying to imagine it on a map today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Syria is not Greece, but yes. So it's
right. But
that part of the Seleucid Empire was Syria, probably the largest portion of it.
Yes. I'm just trying to put it into perspective for somebody who is geographically challenged.
Sure.
And might have an idea where those places are. That gives you a roundabout idea.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it was right between those two kingdoms, okay? The kingdom and the empire.
Okay.
And the monarchy, those were the monarchies that had formed following the death of Alexander the Great.
Got it. Right.
Remember?
Yeah,
he
because it
died
split up the kingdom and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it left this huge vacuum, and that's where everybody came to play.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And that actually laid the ground for all of this to happen. So thanks, Greeks.
You're saying we wouldn't have Jesus if it wasn't for Alexander the Great?
Yeah, we wouldn't have a lot of stuff, good and bad.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah.
kind of leaves a lot to think about.
I mean,
actually.
yeah, the what ifs of history, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true. Some Jews, mainly those of the urban upper class, wanted to dispense with Jewish law, and they just wanted to like go Greek. They wanted to adopt a Greek lifestyle.
Sure.
Okay. They were like,
I mean, the Greeks seemed to have a pretty good. They were on a pretty good time of things. You know?
they had a pretty good time of things. Like we talked about like Greece, baby, and how this was the golden age of Greece, and they were just having all kinds of discoveries and creations, and their art was taken off.
Yeah.
Language was flipping. Education was coming to everybody, and just civilization. Like people were able to finally like settle down and chillax for a minute.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Greece was pretty cool during this time period. So a lot of the Jews were like, meh, we haven't heard about God coming to visit and angels and shit.
Yeah.
Like for quite some time. And I really like what the Greeks are wearing. They have some great clothes and styles. Let's go Greek.
Yeah.
So the Hellenizing Jews.
The yogurt too. I mean, you know, I'm just saying.
Stop. Don't be ridiculous. So the Hellenizing Jews, and when we say Hellenizing, we mean the Greek Jews.
Sure.
Okay. They built a gymnasium. Remember all of this?
Yeah.
In Jerusalem, where being nude, their circumcisions caused quite the stir.
Right.
Because they wrestle in the nude.
Yeah.
When they do the gym exercises.
And the Greeks were making laws that they couldn't circumcise, and it was a thing.
It was a whole thing. Yeah.
And if you didn't hear us talking about the surgeries that people had to rectify the fact that they had been circumcised,
oh God,
you may not want to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. Yeah, so Antioch Epiphanes was like saying, y'all need to stop with all of your Jewish ways,
right,
and stop it. Stop being Jewish.
Yeah.
And some of the Jews were like, yeah, okay. And then others of the Jews were like, but no. What about no?
Right.
And so there was just all of this shit came downhill, right? So the Maccabees were a group of Jewish rebel warriors who retook control of Judea, and they won for a minute. Okay, right. It was awesome.
Yeah.
They created this whole empire, the Hasmonean Empire.
Sure.
Okay, and
but it was only good for a minute.
For a minute, right? But that's what the Maccabees, First and Second Maccabees, are all about. Like they don't tell you, like they don't go past where they won. They're just like, yay, we won,
right?
And so that's what this is about. That 5 minutes, like leading up to that 5-minute victory.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Hasmoneans founded the Hasmonean dynasty.
Sure.
Okay. And it came about because of the Maccabean rebellion.
Yeah.
And the Hasmonean dynasty ruled from 167 BCE after the Maccabean revolt to 37 BCE.
I mean, that's a fairly
pretty decent. Yeah, that's more than 5 minutes. I'll say about 15 minutes, given
I guess
whatever. They reasserted the Jewish religion. They freed Judea from the Syrian Greek occupiers, and they reduced the influence of Hellenism and Hellenistic Judaism, which was a thing. They were like, Greeks, get out of here.
Right.
We're not trying to have your stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, and what I was saying that that it lasted 5 minutes, from what I recall from previous discussions, is that they didn't have the best time of things in their own rulings. Like when they tried to rule themselves, it didn't go so well.
It did not. The Jewish dynasty ruled Judea during the Hellenistic times of the Second Temple period, from around 141 BCE to 37 BCE.
Sure.
And they took some interesting titles. The Hasmonean rulers took the Greek title Basileus.
Okay.
Which that's where we get like basilica and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, Rome.
Got it.
The basilica.
Yeah. Okay.
Like those words share a root. The Greek title Basileus means king.
Got it.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Between around 141 and 116 BCE, the dynasty ruled Judea semi-autonomously within the Seleucid Empire.
Okay. All right.
So, like, they were in charge of their own shit, but they still fell under the Seleucid Empire for this time period.
Got it.
From roughly 110 BCE, with the Seleucid Empire disintegrating, they gained further autonomy and expanded into the neighboring regions of Perea, Samaria, Idumea, Galilee, and Iturea.
Okay.
So they spread out.
And this, we heard more about this in the first Maccabees, where they kind of did this whole expansionist thing.
Yes. And that's why it's been a minute. So that's why I kind of wanted to just go back over, like, this is what we read. This is what these two books were trying to tell us. Okay. This is what actually happened outside of what the books told us.
Sure.
But within the scope of what the books were about.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were a fully independent kingdom from 104 to 63 BCE. So they were like,
okay,
we're on our own.
For like 40 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, again, they were like free for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went from 5 to 15 minutes back to no, just kidding, 5 minutes.
Right.
Forces of the Roman Republic intervened in the Hasmonean Civil War in 63 BCE, turning the kingdom into a Roman client state and marking an irreversible decline of Hasmonean power. Now, this wasn't covered in Maccabees, and you might be asking, why am I even mentioning this? Because while this is a wrap-up of the Old Testament, in particular, a wrap-up of the Maccabees, which come after the Old Testament, I kind of want to just talk a little bit about, like,
the lead up to Jesus.
The lead up to Jesus, because that did not happen in a vacuum. And we've said that multiple times, but I just think it bears repeating. So they were, like, ruled semi-autonomously under the Seleucid Empire. Then they had 5 minutes of full autonomy, and then the Romans came in and were like, psych. So then they became a Roman client state.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
And Herod the Great displaced the last reigning Hasmonean client ruler in 37 BCE. And that is very important because Herod is the king that kicks off the whole Jesus story.
Right.
So the Maccabees really do lead right into this.
Sure.
Over 100-year period after the Maccabean revolt.
Yeah.
But it does, like, really.
Yeah. What happened in this revolt leads right into Jesus' times.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Right.
So it's just this, like, slow roll of history that you're just, like, watching the ball and you're like, oh, it led to this, it led to this, it led to this.
I will say one thing. I didn't hear them talk one bit about David's line during the Maccabees.
Right.
Which you would think, as big of a deal as they made of it in the New Testament, that you might see something like that in there.
Although, as listeners are hearing this, they're not going to know that.
No, I know,
like,
I know.
They won't have heard first,
sure. But like
Matthew chapter 1 yet.
As I said in the intro, we already read it, and
they came straight out the gate in Matthew saying, and so anyway, Jesus came from David,
right?
And we were like, whoa, jump scare.
It's just you would think that would be a thing that would be still relevant during the Maccabean times,
right?
Because it's certainly apparently relevant that at
the beginning of Matthew, that we care about saying. David and who comes after,
right.
It just depends on who you ask when.
Yeah, I mean, if you're reestablishing your Judean kingdom, you definitely got to figure out where the David line is, right? Because the David line's really fucking important, apparently.
I think that is why both the Jewish and the Protestant faiths do not include Maccabees, because whereas both of those are historical and important for establishing Hanukkah and establishing I just
their
lost my
own
train of
rule
thought.
and everything else.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Whereas it is important for that, it's not very old school Jewish centric.
Sure.
So
Right.
that's why only the Orthodox
Orthodox and Catholic.
and Catholic,
Right.
include it. So the author of the first book of Maccabees regards the Maccabean revolt as a rising of pious Jews against the Seleucid king who had tried to eradicate the religion and against the Jews who supported him. So First Maccabees was ultimately a political argument.
Sure. And
Okay.
it sounded very much that way. Like
It was a very
we
historical,
commented on it very much
very
as
dry.
as a political thing. You know?
Yes.
So.
The author of the second book of Maccabees presents the conflict as a struggle specifically between Judaism and Hellenism. So it was more of the religious argument.
Yeah.
With some social context, but
For
it was
sure.
very much a religious argument.
Yeah.
Okay. Most modern scholars argue that King Antiochus reacted to a civil war between traditionalist Jews in the Judean countryside and Hellenized Jews in Jerusalem, which makes it more of a social argument.
Yeah. And honestly, I can kind of see that perspective, right? Like you have your Hellenistic Jews who are more in line with what you would want as being the ruler, and there's a civil war between this and this other sect over here. So you would obviously join forces with trying to reclaim your for the people that support you, right?
Right.
Like that makes sense in a political standpoint. So it tracks.
No, totally, it does. I mean, to put it in context of how it might be today, it could be MAGA versus conservatives, like MAGA versus old school conservatives who are actually Republican.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And both of those originated from the same place, but like,
Right, but like if MAGA were to win out, totally, right? You
Right.
would only ever hear the MAGA side of things,
exactly.
right? And that's what we're doing here. We're hearing only the Maccabean side of things.
Exactly. Yep. So other scholars argue that while the rising began as a religious rebellion, it was gradually transformed into a war of national liberation, which kind of makes it an all of the above argument.
Sure.
And that's what it was. It was a civil social thing. It was political. It was religious. It was a civil war.
Right.
So I just think it's really interesting that like we're talking about this in terms of was it just a historical argument? Like, was it just a political thing that happened? Was it just religion? No, it was all of the above, as
Sure.
it usually is.
Right. Especially back in those times, for sure. You can kind of intermix all of those things together, really.
Yep.
And we've talked about that all the way through the Old Testament, how what they call God and religion and the laws of God and all this is really just politics, and it's almost one and the same, all the way from the Old Testament, like from the Pentateuch on. It's all politics.
It always is politics.
Just wrapped in God.
Yep. So First Maccabees is set about a century and a half after the conquest of Judea by the Greeks under Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great. Spit it out, kid. After Alexander's empire had been divided so that Judea had become part of the Greek Seleucid Empire.
Yeah.
Okay. And Antiochus had banned many traditional Jewish practices, which we already talked about.
Right.
He made possession of the Torah a capital offense. He burned copies. Any copy he could find, he burned.
Yeah. Book burning is never a good thing.
Love me a good book burning, right? No.
No.
Read banned books, you guys.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Sabbaths and feasts were banned. Jewish Sabbaths and feasts were banned.
Right.
Circumcision was outlawed, as we said. Mothers who circumcised their babies were killed along with their families. And
I didn't realize it was all their whole family. That's crazy. Okay.
Specifically the mother and the baby, but often the family as well.
I remember them saying that, but I didn't.
Yeah, often it was the whole family.
Wow.
I mean, think about it.
Right, the family made the choice, I guess, right? So you're all going to pay the price.
I mean, okay, so the mother has the baby, right?
Yeah.
And she has the baby circumcised.
Right.
If there's other children, if they're boys, they're circumcised, so they got to go. If they're girls, well, girls are trash. We hate girls. Girls are gross. The only thing worse than being anything is being a girl, right? So kill them too. The father, I mean, how could he be so unmanly as to let all this happen? And oh dear, look at his dick. He's been circumcised too. Yeah, just kill them all.
Okay.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thinking that went into it.
I see.
Yeah.
The trust wife, she was there.
I was there. I know. I would know. Yeah, so they also had traditional Jewish ritual sacrifice was forbidden. Like, they would kill the goats and whatever else the fuck.
Right.
All those animals and splatter the blood on different sides. Yeah, that was
peace
forbidden.
Offerings, whatever.
Yeah, don't do those anymore.
Yeah.
Israelites set up altars to Greek gods and sacrificed unclean animals on them.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So they were.
It's
they
all
went
about
Greek.
which walls you splatter that fucking blood on, you know?
I mean, when in Greece, do Greece, right? That's what they were like. Greece seems cool.
Right.
And an idol of Olympian Zeus was placed on the altar of the temple, and that's all what resulted in the Maccabean revolt.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The book.
Can't have no Zeus up in here.
No, get Zeus the fuck out. Whatever.
Even though there was it was in Maccabees, wasn't it? Where there was the fucking dude with the lightning bolts and shit, and like
sure as fuck was.
That's fucking Zeus.
It was very Zeus.
Yeah.
It was very Greek.
Right.
It was very Greek gods.
Yeah.
Another time, one of them was like all clad in white and gold, and he had a big giant sword, and he rode in on his giant fucking white horse.
Yeah.
It was so Greek. I was like, y'all so Hellenized.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Mattathias the Hasmonean was a rural Jewish priest, and he sparked the revolt against the Seleucid Empire by refusing to worship the Greek gods. But those Greek gods still snuck in there. Telling you.
I mean, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like any other culture that is mixed with another, right? There's gonna be some crossover, whether you want there to be or not. It just happens.
You just painted him a different color and gave him a different name. It's the same fucking god.
Look, we're talking about an imaginary figure,
right?
Like how are you gonna keep the influence out of your? You have to keep it out of your mind and out of the writers' minds, and like, there's no way to do that.
Look. It reminds me of when people were losing their goddamn ever-loving minds when we had Little Mermaid be played by Halle, who is black. And how can we have the Little Mermaid be black?
Right.
You just can't, right?
I mean, I don't care.
You cannot have mermaids be black, right? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Are you legitimately telling me that this imaginary character that was created, mermaids,
right,
which are not real, that they have a race, they have a skin color?
Right.
Biologically, we're assigned a skin color that you are in charge of. You human are in charge of. Get the fuck out of here. Mermaids aren't real.
Right.
They could be green. I don't care. They could be whatever the fuck color they want to be.
True.
Because they're
probably
pretend.
wouldn't have caused as much controversy if they were green.
Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying. I'm right.
It's true. But the point is that, like, always we're arguing the wrong things. Like, you're so racist, you don't even know how racist you are if you think that having a black mermaid is a fucking problem.
Right.
The problem is not the black mermaid. The problem is the mermaid and you.
Right.
Because mermaids aren't real.
Right.
And neither is God. The end. No.
And now you get off your high mermaid here.
Yes, off my high mermaid. The revolt involved many battles in which the Maccabean forces gained notoriety among the Seleucid army for their use of guerrilla tactics.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Like running underneath elephants.
I was just going to say they had all those fucking elephants, and then that one guy, He became a fucking martyr.
Yeah.
We should be celebrating him.
Right.
After the victory, the Maccabees entered Jerusalem in triumph and ritually cleansed the temple, reestablishing the traditional Jewish worship there and installing high priest Jonathan Maccabee.
Okay. Yep.
So that was one of Mattathias' sons.
Right.
So high priest Jonathan, yay! Jonathan Aphis was his name.
Okay.
We also, don't forget, had Judas the Hammer. No, wait, Judah the Hammer. We had Judas Maccabeus was a guy.
Yeah.
Jonathan Aphis was the high priest. Judah the Hammer was just one of the fighters.
I don't recall Judah the Hammer.
That's where the name Maccabee came from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had a whole thing about that. We did, but it was several months ago. So
Got it.
I'm not surprised if you don't remember.
Okay.
But also Simon Thossi. Simon was one of the brothers.
Sure.
And his name was Simon Thossi or Simon Thassi. He became the high priest, military commander, and ruler of Israel. Remember, like after...
He was the very political one.
He was the very political one.
Yeah.
He was savvy.
Right.
He was just trying to like chillax.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Right.
Simon's son, John Hyrcanus.
Okay.
He's the one that like he came in and superseded Simon.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And he started the next empire, I guess. The Hyrcanian Empire came next after that.
Yeah, and then it was The Last Jedi.
Yes, that is correct. Bingo. Ding, ding, ding. The first book of Maccabees also gives a list of Jewish colonies scattered elsewhere throughout the Mediterranean at the time, which was really interesting because you kind of forget that there's like all these other Jewish colonies after the diaspora.
Yeah.
With the Babylonian exile and all that.
Right.
Like you kind of forget that, oh yeah, there's all these other people everywhere.
Sure.
Like spread out, you know?
Right.
And so the first book of Maccabees gives you a list of those,
okay,
which is really important historically.
Right.
The author of First Maccabees is anonymous and unknown. He wrote in the post-independence Hasmonean kingdom, probably as early as around 134 BCE.
Okay. All right.
All scholars agree that the book was definitely composed by a single author. And written before 63 BCE. We aren't sure when, but...
Right. But it was written within probably a lifetime of when these things happened, or at least close to it.
Yeah, yeah. But it was definitely, no matter what, happened before 63 BCE, because he shows great admiration toward Rome in his letters, and he doesn't know about the Roman general Pompey. Remember when I talked about him?
Yeah.
And he didn't know that guy conquered Jerusalem and reduced the Hasmonean kingdom to a client state of the Roman Republic that year. So
they were still friends back then.
Yeah.
Right.
So it definitely was written before 63 BCE.
Sure.
Okay. The author was likely a court historian or equivalent and appears to be very familiar with Judea and its geography, but he's not as such well informed about the wider Hellenistic world.
Okay.
So
it was very much just an account of the Maccabean happenings, sort of.
Sure.
So, I mean, that makes sense.
But he did mention other things that happened outside of that, as long as it impacted.
Right. Yeah, but more as just like a side note type deal. So,
Second Maccabees was originally written in Greek by an unknown diaspora Jew living in Hellenistic Egypt. Okay, so he was a Greek Jew. Okay, that's what we're trying to say here. It was likely written sometime between 150 and 100 BCE.
Okay.
It's generally considered that the work must have been written no later than the 70s BCE. Okay. Given that the author seems unaware that Pompey would defeat the Hasmonean kingdom. Okay. And make Judea a Roman protectorate.
It's actually surprising to me because of the way, the wording, the way things are, like the re-emphasizing of God and all this.
It seemed like there was more time between them, but there wasn't. There wasn't.
That's very interesting to me, actually.
Me too. I thought that there would be like 100 to 200 years between them,
Right.
but they were actually pretty much written
Near the
around,
same time frame.
Yeah, like almost back to back. Even though Second Maccabees is not a sequel.
Right. And I guess it does make some sense in retrospect, because there's no, like you said, there's no mention of the Romans. There's no, like...
Except for that letter of, could we be friends?
Right,
Would you help us?
So they were still innocent of, like, what was going to happen.
Yeah,
even in
they
the Second
had
Maccabees,
no idea.
Yeah,
None.
that's interesting.
Right? Yeah. It's considered... never mind. The author of Second Maccabees, much like First, is not identified, but he claims to be abridging a 5-volume work by Jason of Cyrene, which I will talk about him briefly here in a second, because we did mention him more than once. I thought it was important to be like, who is Jason guy?
Right.
And what is his 5-volume work?
Yeah.
But Second Maccabees author was like borrowing from it and quoting it and talking about it. So the author appears to be an Egyptian Jew, possibly writing from the capital of Alexandria, addressing other diaspora Jews. So that's why his was more religious.
Got it.
Second Maccabees has traditionally been considered a somewhat lesser source on the history of the Maccabean revolt than First Maccabees by secular historians.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah, and it would only, like, Second Maccabees only really covers the first section of what First Maccabees covered.
Yeah.
So First Maccabees covers quite a large swath of time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're both interesting, I think. Like, I'm really glad we read them.
Yeah.
They're both interesting from different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I think they're both really important to history.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
So
one more for history than the other, but
Yeah, definitely. When I say important to history, I mean looking at why they were written, looking at how they were written, who wrote them, what the intention was, who they were writing them for. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Not that the information contained therein was necessarily historically accurate.
Got it.
So I'm looking at it more as a literary importance than a historical importance, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So let's talk about that Jason guy.
Yeah.
Jason of Cyrene. He was a Hellenistic Jew, so he was Greek, who lived around the middle of the 2nd century BCE, sometime between 160 and 110 BCE.
Sure.
Okay. He's the author of a 5-volume history of the Maccabean revolt and its preceding events. So he was writing about the time period between 178 to 160 BCE.
Interesting.
But the work became lost. It's a lost work.
Huh.
The only reason that we know anything about it is because the Maccabees referenced it.
Right.
And quoted it and talked about it. And they were like, as you know from Jason's great text. And we're like, who the fuck is Jason? And he's like, Jason.
Right.
And we're like, oh.
Yeah, apparently.
Yes, Jason of Cyrene. Yes. Right. And his great work.
He wrote stuff.
He sure did.
Right.
While he was Greek speaking, he still favored the rebel Maccabees in their revolt against the Seleucid Empire, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So he was like not part of the quote unquote progressive Jews that were wanting to be Hellenistic. Right. He was like, no, fuck that. Even though he was part of them socially.
Got it.
He was part of them socially, but did not believe in them religiously and politically.
Got it.
So I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
Diaspora Jews had spread through Ptolemaic lands in this era, so through Egypt. So him being from Cyrene is totally plausible. And the long-standing Ptolemaic rivalry with the Seleucids that had resulted in the Syrian wars would have meant that supporting the Maccabees and opposing the Seleucids would have aligned with the politics of the government where he lived.
Yeah.
So there would be little fear of censorship. He could write whatever he wanted.
Okay.
So it was like totally, yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
So anyway, that's enough about the Maccabees. Let's get into some you're always wrong.
So contradictions.
contradictions.
We're throwing this into one episode today.
We are, because there's not a lot. Because here's the thing. I don't have actual questions for you to choose. You're not wrong today.
Okay.
Because there aren't clean contradictions between First and Second Maccabees versus the Hebrew Bible.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that makes me really sad because I love calling you wrong.
Sure.
But in this case, they just don't cover the same material.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot
it's harder to have the contradictions. Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There are, however, some issues between the texts worth mentioning.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm bringing to the table for quote unquote contradictions.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
One of these, and I put these in order of how they appear in the Maccadoodles.
Sure.
Okay. So there are apparent historical discrepancies with earlier Old Testament accounts. For example, in First Maccabees, that has a feeling of contradiction with Daniel, the book of Daniel, because Antiochus IV Epiphanes sets up the abomination of desolation. Remember how much I love that phrase?
Yeah.
That has a conflict with the OT because Daniel describes similar events, but in a much more symbolic and prophetic framework. So these aren't really contradictions so much as they're different genres. History versus apocalyptic prophecy.
Okay.
They're describing overlapping events. They're just describing them from different moods. Okay. Got it. So that's kind of the stuff that we've got going on here. But there are some better examples here. Okay. In Second Maccabees, the part where we have the 7 brothers.
Yes.
Do you remember
how they were into the frying pan and stuff, or whatever the hell it was?
Yeah. Ugh. We've got like martyrdom and resurrection theology happening in this story, right?
Yeah.
There's explicit statements about bodily resurrection and eternal reward or punishment.
Right.
That's weird.
It is.
That's super
Which is why
weird.
I thought that maybe Second Maccabees was written much later. So
Exactly.
I didn't. It's interesting wording.
It really was. This conflicts with the Old Testament in that resurrection is only hinted at in texts like Daniel, and earlier Old Testament books are much less explicit about the afterlife, about any kind of afterlife.
Right.
They're like,
There was somebody that was resurrected in the Old Testament. I remember that the priest hovered over them or something like that. And it was something weird. But I can't remember exactly what it was.
Weird. It wasn't the norm.
Right.
It was weird.
Yeah.
And that's why this is, again, like that doesn't really fit with the majority of what the Old Testament's about.
Right.
Like most of the Old Testament was about, listen, this is how we live our life. To be clean, we need to follow these fucking rules.
Well, I will say this, that by the time we get to this time frame with Judaism, and especially as now we're heading into the New Testament, the ideas of what Judaism is versus what it was have evolved quite a bit.
Yes, that actually is pretty much my summarizing statement on this.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's so true. It's so true. One thing that I find interesting with regard to this is the Old Testament is more about, look, this is how we live. We follow these rules. Otherwise, our future generations will get punished, right?
Yeah.
And we care about our family. We care about our kids and our grandkids and our future progeny, right?
Right.
But as we get closer to the end of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, and we start approaching Jesus land, we care less about our children being punished and the future generations, and it's more about us personally being punished in the afterlife.
Yeah.
It changes from family to personal involvement.
Right.
And it's almost as though you can look at this and see that the focus of care changes.
There's been a societal shift of some type.
Much.
Yeah.
Where promising a threat to your grandkids and their grandchildren is no longer enough.
Right.
You're no longer scared of that. You no longer give a flip because you recognize, I'm going to die. What the fuck do I care what happens to them? Like, I'm not going to be here to see it. Like, that somehow doesn't matter as much. And so we need to put some bigger fear.
Well, I would put it this way. I mean, my feelings about it, and I could be completely wrong about this, but with all the times that they've been conquered and brought back into the fold and over and over and over again, right? Mm-hmm. The generations down the line probably don't mean as much to them because they don't know if they're going to even be in charge of their own land 100 years from now, let alone still be able to be punished by God for whatever they did wrong. That is true. Right? Like time frames shorten when you're always worried about your enemies that are on the other side of the border, right?
No, that's so true. It really is. It just changes the focus to what you can afford to be afraid of.
Yeah.
I like that.
Immediate threats versus generational threats, you know?
Right.
Generational threats would have been more like, we're worried about the crops in 4 years and whether we're going to be able to tie this through for that whole time frame or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So the threats changed, and so society changed.
No, it's so true. It's just I don't know. I find that so interesting. The entire shift, their entire religion shifted,
right?
And you can see it in the way the books are written.
I can, just thinking back on what we read, I can see it in my mind. You know, like, I can see how it changed.
Yeah. So this is a clear development in belief and change in the way the belief system is structured.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a quote unquote full on contradiction.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Absolutely.
Next one is a really big one though.
Okay.
We get prayers and offerings for the dead.
Okay.
In 2nd Maccabees, Judas Maccabeus collects money to offer a sin offering for fallen soldiers who died wearing pagan amulets. The text explicitly says it's a holy and pious thought to pray for the dead so that they might be freed from sin.
Okay.
Where did he get that idea from?
Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody fucking knows, right?
Right.
That conflicts with the Old Testament because the Hebrew Bible never endorses post-mortem atonement.
Right.
Like, no.
That's the first,
Texts like Psalms and Ecclesiastes and a few others, they 100% emphasize hard that the dead are inactive. They're cut off from worship.
Right.
Like, dead body is dead body.
Sure.
We don't need to worry about praying for their dead body because the soul's out.
Whatever
it's
happened,
done.
happened.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about that is I've always had a problem with funeral services, how we, particularly Christians, how they really do the whole funeral thing. And I'm like, but you told me that the spirit ain't in that body no more. What the fuck matters what you do to that body?
Right.
But they like get very religious-y about it. And that's just so weird.
Imagine that, religion's getting religious-y.
I don't understand, like, the body is just a shell. You told me so, right?
Sure.
Like, what are you doing with it? Why
Right.
do you give a shit?
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying desecrate bodies, okay? Like, I'm not out here trying to say let's take a bat to corpses.
Right.
Or whatever. I'm just like...
Why is it so important?
Right.
Why is it
such a ceremony?
Right. Yeah.
When the soul is already gone from the body.
Sure.
I don't mind a gathering or a wake, but why is the body involved in it?
Sure.
That's my problem.
Right.
Remembering and celebrating a person's life is different from a viewing. And
right.
You know,
Catholics, I don't have the viewing to me, and maybe this is just my own sentiments, but I appreciate it for a one last chance to say goodbye to the person that you loved. You know, like there is something to it in a way that is,
but they're gone. They're not there.
But it can, for the person that's still alive, can feel very spiritual and very. You get a chance to connect one last time, even though they're dead, right?
I hear you.
Just like, hey, this is my person. I love them. I get to see them one last time before never again. You never get to see them again.
I hear that, but
what? And I'm not spiritual. Sorry, I'm not spiritual. I'm not, but I but I do understand that aspect of it. Sorry. Go
For
ahead.
the third time.
Yeah.
I hear you. But what I equate that to is how, like, this is an analogy, okay? How, like, January 1st, that is when we do resolutions, right?
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
has to be on that day.
Right.
And it can be on any day, but we attach significance to a beginning.
Sure.
And we attach significance to this is the final moment that you will see this body. You'll never see it again.
Right. No, I know.
But it's just like so arbitrary if you think about it. It really is arbitrary because
but funerals and wakes and all these things, they're all, even celebrations of life, all these things are meant for the people that are still alive, not for the person that's dead.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how you cut it, that's what it's about.
Yes.
So.
No, you're right. The sacrificial system in Leviticus is definitely for the living, not the dead.
Right.
So OT is like, what are you even doing, Maccadoodles? So this isn't a direct contradiction because there is no don't ever do this law written.
Right.
But it is definitely a new theological move that we haven't seen before. And it is later used, particularly by Catholics, to support ideas like purgatory.
Sure.
Which is like, where's that in the Old Testament? That's nowhere. There's
Right.
no. The soul is gone. It's gone. It's done.
The humans are going to ascribe to their religion whatever they feel like ascribing to it because they want it to be that way. That's what a religion is. It's a belief system that people believe in because they like the belief.
Right.
You know.
It's just crazy to me that there are so many beliefs that are built that aren't supported by their own text. And and they're just
there's probably somewhere that it's supported somehow. Even you might have to contort the way you view it, but there is somewhere that's going to support these ideas. It's just a matter of it may or may not be in the regular text. It might be in something pseudepigrapha or apocryphal or whatever. You know, like it could, or in the apocrypha or whatever. It could be somewhere other than in the normal text.
But that is crazy to me.
Sure. No, I don't disagree. I'm just saying that I'm sure there's an explanation if you talk to somebody that's high up in the Catholic Church, right?
Right, but I'm talking about like the average yo-yo.
Sure.
Like walking down the street and I'm like, hey, so why do you do that? Or why do you think that? That's like totally not even in the Bible like at all. And you know, they would argue with you.
Maybe, or they would just say, I don't know. You'd have to ask my, priest or preacher, or whoever the hell it is.
You're reading it with an agenda.
Yeah, exactly. That's generally the answer I get. So.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm reading it with the words. I don't know what the fuck you're reading it with, but I'm not finding that item that you're discussing.
Well, I mean, there's people that pull out, I forget what it was, but recently there was something where someone quoted something to attribute it to something else. That
No. It was Pete Hegseth quoted the movie Pulp Fiction.
That's not what I was thinking of.
And he thought it was the Bible.
Well, yeah, that did happen, but that's not what I was thinking about. But I'm saying is that people will pull out a section of the Bible or the Old Testament or whatever the hell it is. Same thing, I guess. But they'll take a piece from the New Testament or the Old Testament, and then they'll say, this thing that's very vague represents this other thing that we believe in. And it doesn't actually have to be, like, it's happening a lot in... Actually, we came across it when we read Matthew, which is coming up for everybody else that's listening to this now. Mm-hmm. But there was a piece in there where I forget what it was exactly. We did cover it, I think. But where there was a bit of text from the Old Testament that was attributed to something in the New Testament prophecy. That
it was more than one. They were like, prophecy fulfilled. And we were like... The fuck are you talking about?
Right. But like they used something very vague from the Old Testament.
It was super vague.
To justify the prophecies, basically.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that all through the Bible, and
It's like saying promises made, promises kept. And I'm like, okay, A, that was not even a promise. What the fuck are you talking about? And how are you saying it was kept? Because this is like not
have you ever seen any of the rapture prognosticators that are on fucking TikTok and shit, where they're like, because the sun X is here and Y here, and then there's cities here that are named whatever.
Utopia.
Then we're going to have the apocalypse on April 23rd.
Sure.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sure.
Don't you know? Didn't know.
Here's another one that was questionable.
Yeah.
Suicide got framed positively in Second Maccabees when Razis kills himself rather than be captured.
Right.
And the narrative portrayed him as noble and faithful.
Yeah.
But that 100% conflicts with the Old Testament, because suicide stories do exist, like in Saul and in Samson, but they are not explicitly praised as righteous acts.
Sure.
And the Old Testament generally emphasizes life as belonging to God, which is why Catholics, like, if you are a suicide, you do not get to be buried on holy ground, and your soul is not saved. Like, you're in trouble.
I would imagine that there are a lot of people that believe in God and that are Catholic, especially for Second Maccabees, that would call that a sacrifice and not a suicide.
It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the church calls it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I feel like there is a distinction between. I feel like they would make a distinction because of why he did it, because of what was going on in those circumstances.
You think that because you've talked to a lot of priests and read a lot about it? Because I think you might be wrong, sir.
Why? What?
Because there's like movies and lots of Hollywood stories about like the Catholics take it very seriously.
No, absolutely. I'm not saying they don't.
Exceptions.
I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that's why I'm saying in order to justify that being something that is okay, because it is in the Catholic Bible, right? Mm-hmm. They probably would reference it as a sacrifice as opposed to a suicide.
Well, that's what makes it a contradiction, because they're like, it's okay that he did this, but the Old Testament's like, no, it's really not. And according to like how we practice our religion, it's really not. That's what makes it a contradiction.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm sure that they justify that through calling it a sacrifice or some other means.
Well,
that's what I was getting at.
Okay, I see. I don't know how they get around it. I think most of them probably don't read it.
Right. Well, I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all bullshit. So.
It is all bullshit. There is that. So here's the last one. Intercession of the dead with like saints and stuff.
Yeah.
Like in Second Maccabees, there's a vision where the deceased high priest Onias III and the prophet Jeremiah are seen praying for Israel and even giving a sacred sword.
Yeah,
right? These guys just come in, and we were like, wait, that Jeremiah?
Right. Yeah.
I remember you specifically were like, wait.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that Jeremiah. Okay. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, that was weird.
This highly conflicts with the Old Testament because the OT strictly forbids consulting with the dead. Do not do it.
Yeah.
That's spelled out in Deuteronomy. And the story of Saul and the medium in 1 Samuel portrays contact with the dead very negatively.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the fuck they dug that out.
Right.
But
no, that was interesting.
Very weird.
Yeah.
And again, this is not like a direct command, like they did it wrong. It's a contradiction. It is definitely, however, a shift toward ongoing heavenly intercession.
Right.
Which we see more and more of.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the second chapter of Matthew, and we've seen so many fucking angels.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
It's weird.
Right.
I'm like, y'all been talking to, what's that guy? Who was that guy that saw the angels with the eyes and the wheels?
Oh, Ezekiel.
Ezekiel.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all been smoking it up with him.
Right.
So that is what I have brought to the table for the Maccadoodles.
Okay.
You already said this, but I'm going to spit it back out anyway. At the end of the day, the tension between first Maccabees, second Maccabees, and the earlier Hebrew Bible is really akin to watching a belief system evolve in real time.
Yeah.
Like, you're just, like, as you read through that whole thing, from beginning in Genesis and then spelling out all the laws in the rest of the Pentateuch, and then, like, all the history of all the fucking judges and the kings and whatever.
Yeah.
And then all the way up through the prophets.
Right.
And then the Maccadoodles.
Yeah. It evolves quite a bit.
It does. And we got to watch that unfold over 5.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a wrap on the Old Testament, my friend.
Do we have one more episode for the Maccabees, or is this it?
This is all I was going to give it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm so over.
So the next episode after this one is going to be for our regular podcast listeners.
The prep of who Matthew.
Got it. Okay. All right. I knew you had talked about there was another episode, but I couldn't remember what it was. Yeah. But we're done with the Old Testament.
We're done with the Old Testament.
Okay.
Anything else we do regarding the Old Testament from here on out will be special episodes. We might eventually read some pseudepigrapha. We might do some more just one-off weird things.
Right.
But as far as reading chapters on an ongoing basis,
we done.
I'm so over it.
Okay.
Fuck the OT. God's a dick.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for reading the Old Testament with us.
Right?
That's we're putting a wrap up. This is it. We're done. We're done.
I'm so I want to be excited and be like, yeah, we did it. But instead I'm just I'm so done. There's a difference in I'm done versus I'm done.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're sorry that this took a little while to get out, but glad you're still here with us. And we will see you next time for the intro to Matthew.
Yes. And it's fun.
All right. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Hey, wife, I guess that's the end?
But husband, that's just sad.
It doesn't have to be. We are on lots of social media platforms like Twitter. Our handle there is sacrilegious_D.
For D's nuts.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. Anyway, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There's a link to all of our social media sites at our website.
Ooh, we have a website?
Yeah, it's sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, where you can also find a link to our merch shop.
We have a merch shop?
Yep. We have podcast-themed clothing, mugs, notebooks, and more, as well as an atheist and science-themed products.
Wow, our fans should really go check that out right now.
Definitely. They can get in touch with us by sending an email to sacrilegiousdiscourse@gmail.com. But before they do that, we could really use some help.
Oh yeah? With what?
Well, it's not free running the podcast, and we need some financial support in order to get better equipment, which will free up time so we can concentrate on our podcast and our fans.
Okay, so what should they do?
Head over to patreon.com/sacrilegiousdiscourse and sign up as a contributor on our podcast. Supporters there receive additional bi-weekly episodes that we record just for our Patreon members for as little as $2 a month.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using.
And Apple Podcast reviews help us out tremendously.
Like and subscribe. Leave an Apple review. Join us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. That's a lot of instructions. Don't forget to say thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.